Eliana,
Yes.
I think it's about that time. For all of you that tuned in specifically to hear about the P. Diddy Combs case, well, at this point, it is now your time to jump off of this mothership. But for all the rest of you that are interested, it is time for us to give our thoughts and opinion and candid advice, not legal advice, but candid advice to those unsuspecting people or suspecting people looking for help in their ongoing dissolution cases. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Family Law After Dark, where myself and Ileana give our attorney perspective on various family law scenarios. It's very important that you understand that this cannot and should not be perceived as legal advice, because the chances are, if we were talking to you individually in either one of our offices, one small thing that you would tell us with respect to the hypotheticals that we are covering would change the entire analysis for you. And so, by all means, for your individual situations, please go see an attorney. For right now, we are speaking about these hypotheticals into the general context of the entire universe. But it's fun to talk about, and let's get into our first.
For entertainment.
Yeah, for entertainment only. I don't know how many of these we're going to get to, but let's start with this one. So he has two questions. I believe couples tend to leave retirement alone. Is this true, or does anyone have experience with that? Otherwise, yes, I do. The second question feels a bit shadier and could cause a fight, but I still want to ask. We have a joint account and both of our separate accounts for our own personal expenses. When we bought our vehicles, we put them under our names only. I only have $3,500 left on payments. My wife says around $20K. Would it be smart to pay off the loan with my money? All right. So he's asking about money stuff. This is his scenario. My wife and I have decided to cut ties and get a divorce. On the gradual slide down, we saw a therapist and had general kitchen table talks about custody, assets, and finances. We finally decided to commit a week ago and began gathering paperwork and details to file again. In our first few conversations, months back, we had chosen to prepare and go uncontested. She randomly decided to contact a lawyer to protect herself last week, which I assume was advice she received from friends and family. I get the idea, but feel it's only going to hurt discussions, as I still don't want to involve lawyers who will likely push for above our agreed 50-50 split. All right, I will. Should we cure that myth? Okay, when people come to you and they say they want to settle everything right down the middle, they don't care about this or that, do you say, oh no, we are going to push for every single penny that you could possibly get in alimony, and I'm going after his retirement, and I'm going to go get discovery because I want to make sure he's not hiding money and dug up in Colombia somewhere? Is that the conversation that you have?
Definitely no.
Let me tell you specifically one conversation I had with a prospective client that basically told me the same thing. My wife and I kind of have like the framework of something we want to work up. We just want help like drafting it. We don't want to fight about anything. And I'm like, great. Well, could I bring her into the office and could we talk about it again? Absolutely. But I have to tell you that I can't represent both of you at the same time. I got to pick one. But I'd be happy to discuss. And what I would recommend for your wife to do, if I'm going to be representing you, is that she go contact her own attorney. I have to let her know about her rights. Matter of fact, there's certain things where I'm required to make sure there's a writing saying that I acknowledge that I have these specific rights and I'm giving them up by agreeing to do this. Because if you don't, then you could be accused of, well, undue influence and various other things. So, but we had that discussion. One of the things I said to him was like, what's the worst that could happen? That she finds out that you guys have had a 20-year marriage and nobody told her before that she's entitled to lifetime alimony because of the length of the marriage, basically until she passes away or you marry or some other significant circumstance. And she wants to cash in on all of that. And then some other attorney convinces her that, oh, by the way, you're also entitled to half of this and half of that, and you don't have to do this, and this is what you stand to lose or win, whatever. Fine. Yeah, that's the worst. Sometimes somebody talks to a lawyer and says they tell her that she has the following rights, and these are them. And then, you know, they can make the decision to say, no, I just want to get this done because I'm getting married to somebody else in like a year and I want to make sure this is finalized, whatever. That'll happen. But here's a scenario. Most people, when they go into these situations for an amicable divorce, have already got over the shock and horror of having the realization that your marriage is going to be falling apart. 95% of the people that file for divorce are just getting over the emotions of making the transition to being fully committed and devoted to one person, to have them straight up reject that lifestyle and want to go their own separate ways. There's a lot of pain and agony in that decision, in that hurt, in those emotions, in that sadness, and that depression is born about this idea that we're going to get even in the divorce. And then you have these messy litigations. But then what happens is it's really hard and a pain in the ass to do it that way, and you end up settling the case anyway.
Exactly.
Sometimes after 6 to 7 or 8 months, 14 months, a couple of years of going back and forth. But if you guys have already gone through the hard part together, and you are mature enough and ready enough and stable enough to come and sit in my office together as I go over and address, look, yeah, we're going to give up alimony, but here's what you're entitled to. You're entitled to lifetime alimony because it's a long-term marriage in the state of California. But, if this is what you want to do, I will draw it up exactly how you guys want it drawn up. I just got to make sure in the document there are provisions so that it can't be challenged in the future. That way it's a clean split. We don't got to worry about anything. Fine. So yeah, you could do that. But it takes a skilled attorney to present it in such a way that it doesn't start War of the Roses.
Yes.
Have you guys ever saw that movie, War of the Roses?
No.
It's about divorce. You should watch it. 1987, Michael Douglas and I forget the other lady's name, Kathleen Turner or something.
Okay.
I forget. It's a really old movie, but it's about divorce. And there's the little guy, Danny DeVito was in it. I want to say he was like the divorce attorney. I go watch it, whatever.
War of Roses.
The War of Roses. Yeah,
Okay.
I won't spoil it for you,
Okay.
even though it's a 30-year-old plus movie. But, it's entertaining. So I am sure I'm going to get a lot of get your own lawyer for my own protection now, but would like to try and stick it out if at all possible. A little background from the point of my question. So I made a little over 100,000 and my wife is in the mid 70,000s. We have 3 children, 7, 5, 3. Yikes. We agree on a 2-2-3 and custody is not a problem. Good for you. That's half the battle. That said, my kids are much more attached to me. Oh, here we go.
Oh.
My kids are much more attached to me as I do not subscribe to authoritative. See, this is where you start. This is where we get to starting.
The red flags are.
Oh, I do not subscribe to authoritative parenting like my wife. I put them to bed every night and get them ready in the mornings. I am simply more involved in their emotional well-being. This is one of the guys that wants a medal. I'm such a good dad, and I'm so progressive in my parenting style, and I just don't think the children are going to be as well adjusted having to deal with her and her authoritative, outdated style, raising a bunch of. Never mind. When she. All right. When she began asking for financial docs for her lawyer, though, it caught me off guard, so I agreed if she provided the same to me. Originally, we discussed leaving each other's retirement alone, but the more I think about it, what did I just say?
There we go.
So originally we discussed leaving each other's retirement alone, but the more I think about it, the more I'm feeling I need to fight for my own interests. I bought my first home years ago by pulling from my 401k and using funds from my granddaughter's passing. Oh, grandfather's passing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I proposed to her months later so that property became ours. I worked daily on that starter home and sold for $70,000 profit to fund our current home. I worked daily on that starter home and sold it for profit for $70,000. Okay. I've done the same with our current home, and we stand to make a hefty profit. I believe it is in my best interest to involve the retirement now, as hers is substantially higher, as she never had to dip into it. Oh, boy. Okay. For starters, let's go through this one by one.
Yeah.
The house that he bought. There was a down payment from an inheritance. That's his separate property, no matter how you slice it. Use
In
it as a down
California.
payment. He would be entitled to a dollar for dollar reimbursement. This is a California case. The problem with that is he used the proceeds from that first house to purchase the community residence. Those funds have now been commingled and have thus far been recharacterized as community property. He has no separate property interest in this house anymore. By that analysis, if all of that is true. As far as her having a heftier 401k, yeah, sure, maybe, but you also are going to be paying her alimony to some degree. 100 versus 70k. It's not going to be a substantial amount of alimony, but it's going to be something. And I guarantee you, if you start going after her 401k, then she's going to go after his alimony. Yeah. And then she wants half of your retirement, and then she's going to want half of your share. Well, if you guys are going to split that down the middle. And you know what? All that good will that you brought up and coming to terms on this 223 schedule. Well, now all of a sudden she wants to be sole legal physical parents of the children because she thinks that your non-disciplinary style is not in their best interest. They're going to grow up to be juvenile delinquents because of a lack of discipline.
That's the type of case where everything, they come with an agreement in the beginning, and all of a sudden you get this email that says, well, I was thinking about it, and I think the children will be better off with me, so I want to just have as much custody as I can. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. Listen, here's the thing. First of all, here's why divorce is such a bad contract, because it ties you guys together in ways that you have to go through this process now to split up. And now we're talking about dividing retirement accounts and 223 arrangements. And, I want my fair share. I spent my separate property on the house and we use it to buy this thing. We're going to stand and make a lot, and I want what I'm entitled to. Okay, you start talking that way, you're going to find yourself in 18 months of litigation, an expensive family law trial that sounds like it's probably at least a 3 to 5 day trial. That's probably not going to be heard consecutively. So you're talking about 3 to 5 days of trial translates to an additional year of litigation, probably. So you're going to be going through this divorce for 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, depending on the courtroom's availability, depending on discovery. Do you know how much it costs to litigate for 3 to 4 years? He just said that he made a hefty amount of money in that property. Sold for $70,000 profit. Ha! Your current home. Yay. Guess what the lawyer bills are going to be?
I know.
We're talking at least on the low end, 6 figures. Or you guys can probably find an attorney to take a flat fee of $2,500 or maybe less to drop an ironclad judgment where you get to walk away and she gets to walk away, and you guys have final orders of custody and visitation that allows you to co-parent peacefully, and nobody has these bad feelings of having gone through 24 to 36 to 48 months of litigation, and you get to keep all the money that you made in your properties. Otherwise, you're just going to give it to the attorneys. So look, you're opening up a can of worms there, buddy. So look, you by all means 100% fight for whatever you think that you're entitled to. Just know that unless you're doing it on your own, whatever you stood to make, it sounds like, is going straight into your attorney's pockets. I would highly advise you. Now look, if you want to do an uncontested divorce and you guys want to do that on your own, do it. I would caution that people that do it that way, maybe half the time, end up with judgments that are not enforceable.
Yes.
So it's worth $2,500 to $5,000 to have it written up by an attorney in a way that protects against post-judgment litigation. If you want a divorce and you want a real split, then do it in a way where it's more like a breakup. You don't have to talk to each other. I mean, you guys got to co-parent together, fine. But you don't want to be having to deal with this for the next 20 years of your life. So let's just, look, cut your losses. And you could get all of the medals you want about being a good dad to whoever the next prospective missus you're going to have. And you could go and make more money with your newly found separate property income and start doing your own thing. She'll be on her own. You'll be on your own. Start building up your own retirement and just move on. But if you really want to do it, it's going to be a $15,000 retainer. Well, let's go on the low end. $7,500 retainer. which will cover the bare bones basic minimum, not a trial.
No trial. Yeah.
And then what I often say is, look, this is probably going to get you start to finish unless we have to do some crazy stuff with discovery and trial, in which case you're looking at probably $20 to $30 to $50,000. But for 2 to 3 years of litigation, you're probably well over 6 figures in attorney fees by the time it's all said and done. And so whatever you thought you made on that house, well, you didn't make nothing. And then you're going to end up leaving with what you had. All of that. Much better to save yourself the aggravation, keep your money, and just move on, man. It's not worth it is not worth it.
It is not, no.
But hey, we will be here if you think it is. For some people, it's just about the principle, right?
Exactly. Yes. Because I do it all the time. I present to my clients, you want to fight this issue, this is how much you're going to get back,
Yeah.
but this is how much it's going to cost you to litigate that. 99% of the time, it doesn't make sense.
Hey, and by the way, you're not always going to get an attorney that are like you and me, right?
Yes, that's true.
I talk myself out of so many clients.
Yeah.
I convince them that they don't need me. Like, look, do you really want to give me $7,500 to do this? Or do you think you might be able to do this on your own and keep your money, go take a trip to Tahiti or something, and, live happily ever after? Some attorneys will promise you the moon and the stars, and it'll sound very much like a sales pitch, and they won't tell you about the cost. So they'll probably say something, I will charge you a $3,500 retainer, and I will fight for you, and I'll do all of this. Next thing you know, like a month later, hey, you need to replenish the retainer, and you're going to have that same conversation like 12 times after the fact, and then what you thought was a $3,500 retainer is now turned into $150,000 in legal fees.
And what I find a lot through the potential clients and the clients is that a lot of the times they talk to an attorney and they say what they want or what their hopes are, and they're not reasonable. Like their hopes and dreams, whatever, they're not reasonable, but they don't get corrected. Like the attorney doesn't tell them, yeah, that's not possible. They just go ahead and quote them and kind of go with the whole like sales pitch and make them believe that that's possible. And then they go ahead and hire. And then after they hire, oh yeah, that's not possible.
Exactly. Well, I didn't know that you were going to be, I thought you had more evidence. It's your fault.
Yeah.
You were the one that deceived me.
So
I've seen bad attorneys like that. I've seen attorneys lose custody for their client with the children because of making false allegations of sexual misconduct, child abuse, those kinds of things. Inexperienced family law attorneys don't think that's a real thing. Oh, this is a very real thing.
Now that you mentioned that, and you mentioned earlier about the judgments are not an easy thing.
No.
You have to craft it very carefully.
Yeah.
Word it very carefully.
Yeah.
And I even seen judgments made by attorneys, but they're not family law attorneys.
Right.
That have mistakes. So it's not just about getting an attorney. It's about getting an attorney that knows about family law and about. And
you got to be careful with those attorneys too, because especially those kinds of attorneys, they're pulling those judgments like from templates off the internet, which is the same thing that a pro per would do.
Yes, exactly.
And they're chock full of mistakes. Sometimes it's the wrong jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I literally reviewed a judgment, a California judgment that was quoting Washington state law.
Oh my.
Saying that the jurisdiction will be California. And I'm
was it in prepared judgment or was it
They got this from a divorce attorney. It was literally a template that they pulled off of the internet.
Small practice there.
100% it is. I pointed out the mistake, and then because it was for a prenuptial.
Okay.
Prenuptial, and so I was the reviewer of it, and I was just saying, hey, just so you know, this language is not for the state of California, and there was a bunch of other stuff, but we worked it out because I, suggested different things. You're right. And then the other thing that happens, like for custody and child visitation, if most people that try to craft those agreements and judgment ends up with temporary orders, that are subject to change on a de novo review basis, best interest of the child, as opposed to final orders of judgment, intended to be final orders of judgment, which could only be changed with a significant change in circumstances, which obviously affects the ability to litigate it going forward. There's just a lot of potential pitfalls. It's hard to write a good judgment. Do not make the mistake that you could just do it as good as an attorney because you Googled something. It is not. And please do not do an AI judgment. Those are retarded. They don't work. They don't work. They're always wrong. They're always wrong. AI is really bad at drafting those kinds of judgments.
Yes.
Trust me. Hey, but you know what? Try it. Maybe it'll work out.
Now, a lot of times too, like you said, you talk yourself. I mean, you talk your clients out of hiring you.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I see that there's like a litigant that understands the process and it's pretty good, I'll just tell them like you can start the process on your own. Like it's the petition, it's the summons service. Just come to me when you get stuck, which is probably going to be either on the financial disclosures or in the judgment. Those are the two like main ones, and I'll go ahead and make sure that I get those ready for you. But just be careful because out there's a lot of people that are hungry for money.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you that they'll do it and that they'll do it right for you and fight for you when.
And then they do like the worst job ever. You could have just had like a 18-year-old paralegal do it or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Hey, you could do this, but you don't need me for this. Trust me. This is a very simple petition. If you get stuck, like, here's the forms. They even have instructions on how to fill out the forms. If you get too overwhelmed, I will do it if you want me to. But just know, I think that you might be able to handle it. But anyway, let's move on with this one. I hope that this guy does not do what he's suggesting.
I know.
I'll just say that. All right, moving on. All right, what is the gist of this guy's question? All right. So, wife files for divorce over irreconcilable differences, but I know now it was for someone else. So,
California.
This is a California case, so it doesn't matter. About a month ago, my wife slammed divorce papers in front of me and demanded I sign them. And not to drag my feet, it's like a Bad Suits episode.
I know. That's like one of
Get a load of
my
that.
biggest pet peeves when people come to me and they're like, yes, I want the divorce. And they have this idea where divorce is a one signature thing from the beginning.
Oh, I know.
Like the movies. Like they didn't sign on the divorce. I just want to give them the papers and have them sign off on it.
That's not how that works. Let's talk
You
about the
don't get-
6-month cool down period, huh?
And there's nothing to sign in the beginning unless you're signing an acknowledgement form for the summons.
Exactly.
There's nothing. Like the signature comes at the very end.
So
And that is never portrayed in the movies.
maybe it's like an uncontested judgment or something. They're trying to get them to sign that they have some paralegal draft. But even then, that requires like financial disclosures.
Yes,
and all.
exactly.
So, but, well, whatever. She had the best of intentions, as they say. She just wanted to be done with him. She was really angry. She really slammed. Don't drag my feet. She blamed it on me looking at girls on the internet.
Just side note, so she's serving her own petition?
Yes, all kinds of wrong. There's all kinds of bad.
That's
right?
another improper service, but yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
she blamed it on me looking at girls on it. Nobody cares, buddy. California doesn't care, and they don't care about your reasons. Stating I was being unfaithful and just wanting to be done with me. In the beginning, I held on to hope that we could make it work. I wanted to be respectful and nice to her and not make it uglier than it needed to be. I removed my belongings from the home, moved in with my mother in the meantime. She made me believe I was the shitbag husband, that I was terrible, and that I hurt her by looking at other women. Not once did I ever even converse with another woman. I sulked for weeks, believing everything she said. I questioned whether I would ever be good for anyone else. I wanted my wife and our life back. I received a letter from the court for our hearing with a judge over a Zoom call. Yes, apparently we as humans get divorced over Zoom now too. Oh, don't be so dramatic, buddy. It's not that big of a deal.
Status conference.
Yeah, to finalize our divorce in May. Maybe it's like a prove-up hearing or something. I don't know. Or just a bifurcated motion or something.
Maybe, but lately most of the consultations that I've gotten when they have been told that they have to appear via Zoom they're in prepare is because they are doing the status conference because the case is not moving.
Right.
And for some reason they believe that is like because there's this false belief that the court is going to keep track of your divorce, and eventually they're going to call you to
Yeah.
come to court to divorce you. But no, they only call you to come in if they see that you're not moving your case, and this is when you
Yeah.
get like told, yeah, you need to appear via Zoom.
Status conference and all that. We figure out tribal issues and ad issue memorandums and all those things. But you're right. And everybody thinks, oh, it's my big day for family court. I'm going to see the judge, and they get dressed in their Sunday best.
Yes.
And they're ready to be officially divorced. And the judge will be something, well, I guess we're going to have a trial readiness conference in 90 days. But Your Honor, I wanted to listen, buddy, you have an attorney. Speak to him. Sometimes that's how it goes. All right. So fast forward to today. My wife recently unblocked me on Facebook. Out of curiosity, I looked at her friends list and I found a new guy.
Oh, God.
I caught my wife texting another guy during our marriage. She told me it was strictly catching up with someone she knew. I was able to confirm this was the same guy she's now friends with on Facebook. On top of that, she removed me from our Duolingo family plan. What is that? Do you know what that is? Duolingo. Oh, okay. They are friends in there as well. He's also friends with her niece, which surprised me how deep it has gotten already. I am now convinced that this was not a divorce based on irreconcilable differences, but a divorce for her to entertain this other man. My wife has been unfaithful to me before our marriage, and I forgave her. My question is, do I just let it all go, or do I drag it on and make it hell for her? After she convinced me everything was my fault and I'm a terrible person, when in fact it was more likely for this new guy. What are your thoughts? What should I do? I think he should refer to my first hypo where I said this. See, this is like why people end up in litigation. I'll just say this. Nobody gives a shit about in the state of California about who did whatever wrong. The question they will ask you is, do you believe that irreconcilable differences have arisen in your marriage such that no amount of counseling or therapy would be able to rectify those differences? And then you answer to that, yes. Do you wish to be returned to the state of a single person in the state of California? And if you answer yes to that, that is all they care about. They don't care about who cheated on who. They don't care if she cheated on you with 80 different men. They don't care about you looking at porn on the internet. Nothing. They don't care if you ever conversed with another female. It is none of their business. And here's what's more. This new guy that she has entertained it's really none of your business either. She could date whoever she wants. And guess what? She's going to. And she doesn't need your permission to do it.
Or approval.
And she doesn't, it doesn't matter what her opinion is of you. She thinks that you're the shitbag husband, whatever. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. The point of the matter is, what difference does definitions make if your marriage is over anyway? You could relitigate it as much as you want. You can go back and talk to your priest. You could talk to your mom about it. You could talk to whoever. Go talk to a therapist. And you guys could, in your minds, replay the events of what led to the demise of your marriage. But it's gone, and there's no resurrecting it, and she's already moved on with some new Facebook Duolingo guy or whatever. And so it's over, buddy. And the quicker that you let it go, the better. Because I'll tell you what, the act of following her on social media to try to keep tabs.
And looking into her friends list.
How many children do these people have? Did she say?
I don't think they mention any children.
Well, if they did, I hope they don't have children. But if they did, then all of a sudden, I just don't trust this new guy. I don't want my child to go around her new boyfriends. I don't know who they are. And guess what? The judge will tell you it's none of your business who her new boyfriend is. It's none of your business if she's dating 50 other men. As long as those children are not putting that child in danger, then we're not going to do anything about it. So look, you're wasting your time with this. The divorce is set. The divorce is done. Well, it's in progress, I guess. Get your stuff together. Get yourself a really good therapist. Go find one of your best male friends or groups or whatever and go have a night out. Go to the adult entertainment center of your choice where people decide that it's clothing optional. Go and find yourself a girlfriend. Go and, go live, man. Hey, there's a lot of freedom in being single. Do not waste it on despair over a failed marriage and a woman who no longer wants you. It is time to go discover America. And the quicker that you're able to do that, the happier you're going to be. And this divorce will be but a momentary blip on an otherwise fruitful and productive and hopefully eventful life. And you will live happily ever after. And that's all I have to say for Duolingo guy. Any final parting words for him?
I don't know. Just get over it. Get over it. I mean, these are the types of cases or like consultations that I get, and I have to like really think what I'm gonna say before it comes out of my mouth, because I don't want to come out as rude, but it's like I don't have a lot of patience at the same time for
Well, you got things to do. You gotta work.
No.
I mean, as they're talking, you're in your mind putting together all the things you got to do to finalize this guy's divorce, and he's over here talking about Facebook and stuff.
Yes. No.
Yeah. Hey, unfortunately, man, you're gonna have to grow a pair. I don't know if that is appropriate to say anymore in 24, but hey, you got to get over it, man. At some point.
Let's just leave it at get over it.
Yeah. It's time to move on. Let us move on before I get myself in any more trouble than I'm already in. All right. STBXH doesn't want to pay Alan. What is that? STBXH. Soon to be ex-husband doesn't want to pay alimony because it's my fault I don't make more. So in a formal letter from what state is this case? I think this is California. In a formal letter from his lawyer, my soon-to-be ex-husband of over 20 years doesn't feel he needs to pay any spousal support because it's my fault. I make less because I chose to stay in a job that was flexible and paid less to let me keep the kids out of daycare until they were in school. He feels I have a degree and could make as much as him if I wanted to, and always could have. We have 4 kids. The youngest is 6, and I am the one who is with them during the summer as I work from home, so no daycare is needed. I stay home with them when they are sick from school or have school holidays because of my flexible schedule. This let me have a job where he sometimes traveled up to weeks at a time away from home. What should I do? I don't know. How would you advise this young lady?
But what does she mean by what should I do? I mean, he doesn't want to pay alimony.
Yeah,
Just
first of all,
go forward and, I don't know, contact an attorney to see if you actually have.
Let's go through the 4320 factors. Yeah. What I would say is it's not up to him whether or not he gets to pay alimony. He could think whatever he wants. Look, there is a 300-year history of alimony in the United States as it pertains to the destruction of a divorce. There's very specific rules that they've come up with over 300 years of evolving case law on the matter. And you can find their conclusions. There's 15 different factors that go into it. It's under Family Code section 4320. And you'll often hear judges in California refer to a 4320 trial. That's when they're literally trying to figure out what the amount of alimony is going to be, if anything at all.
Or 4320 factors. They mention that a lot. And I see a lot of self-represented litigants go like, what? Like, what are they referring to? But
yes, it's a very lengthy statute in the state of California. And just to give you an idea, I will read some of it.
I think Form 157.
Yes.
They kind of list them.
The actual statute says the extent in ordering spousal support under this part, the court shall consider all of the following circumstances. And it lists A through N. It says the extent to which the earning capacity of each party is sufficient to maintain the standard of living established during the marriage. So that means a triable issue is going to be, did you live a middle-class lifestyle? Was it upper middle class? Did you guys take trips often? What was your entertainment expenses like? All this, your lifestyle.
Credit card use, ability to save for retirement.
Yes, all of those things. They take into account the marketable skills of the supported party, the extent to which the supported party's present or future earning capacity is impaired by periods of unemployment. And look, it's a really boring, long
Yes,
statute.
it is.
But I'll tell you what, it came about from this. It was mostly the circumstance when they were writing these laws that the male would be the primary breadwinner. The wife would stay home and watch the kids and tend to the house. And he, because of her support and watching the children, would have the ability to pursue a full-on career. And he would go on and would have this successful business, and he would be making all of this money because of her help that allowed him to pursue this career. And then he would decide that he's going to date a much younger woman, 20 years his junior or more or less, and decide, you know what, I think I'm going to get myself a new wife. And then he would kick the current wife to the curb with the children, and for the purposes of moving in his mistress or whatnot. Well, California deemed that unfair. They say that if by virtue of your wife's contributions, her sacrifices, her sacrificing her own career and wishes and dreams, she chose to stay home with the children so that you could advance in your career to a position of great stature and wealth. She is going to be compensated in the form of alimony for all of her troubles. It's not like, oh, she just gave up 20 years of her life for this effing guy. She's then kick her to the curb and now she's left with nothing. It's based in equity. That's what it's about. So regardless of what his opinion is about your ability to make money, or you should earn more, or it's your fault, well, they cover that in the 4320 factors. So you said something really important. You said, I chose to stay in a job that was flexible and paid less to let me keep the kids out of daycare until they were in school. And interestingly, this is in a formal letter from his lawyer. I'm curious what the actual letter said. But if it's the case that you stayed home and maintained a job that allowed you to save on daycare, and daycare is not cheap.
No.
How many kids did they say? 4 kids.
Oof.
4 kids of daycare. That's like $2,500 a month in
More.
daycare expenses. Probably more, right?
25 is like 1.5 child a kid. It's like 3,000 for 2 nowadays. That's
Yeah. It's,
easily $4,000 or $5,000 in a month.
honestly, it's like a job.
Yeah.
It's income by itself. So you're saving on that income. You may or may not be working or be making that much money by yourself in the job that you have because it's flexible and probably a part-time job or whatever. And so let's just say, for argument's sake, that you are working and you're no longer saving money on that daycare cost. Well, you still got to take care of the children. So now you're losing that money. And oftentimes you'll see in these child support hearings like, well, I'll make her work if you want to, but she's able to stay home with the kids. I'm going to make you pay for half the daycare expenses.
Exactly.
So what do you want to do, buddy? And we got to factor those things in. So just the fact that she says that, he feels I have a degree and could make as much as, hey, look, degrees are not honestly worth all that much.
Yeah.
They're really not. Undergrad degrees do not carry the same weight as they used to even 15 years ago. I tell my daughter, she's about to go to college, and I tell her that, look, man, it used to be the case that you needed to have this to make money, be successful. You really don't need a college degree anymore. You go start a business. You could go start a TikTok business, like a drop shipping or something. I bet you make more than like a part-time $7 an hour. It's not $7 an hour anymore, but whatever minimum wage would be. And you're not limited by this. And so anyway, I've had those discussions with her, but yeah, look, it's not up to him whether or not he's going to pay you alimony. If his attorney is sending you that letter, then let him. Those are triable issues. And I guarantee a lot of the things that the judge is going to take into account is exactly what you said. Your sacrifice that has allowed him to make what he makes for you to even be able to ask for alimony. So for all of you people that are listening to this and say, oh, well, that's not fair. Well, then don't get married. Or sign a prenup where alimony is not a thing. Because I agree, it's not. It doesn't seem fair when you're going through it, but when you consider their circumstances, I understand the reasons why it is. It's a law of equity. This person just gave 10, 15, 20 years of their life to you so you could succeed. And now you want to move on, and what she left with? She's just holding the bag. And so if you don't want to do that, then write up a prenuptial agreement that takes all those things into account, and then you won't have to worry about it. But in this case, hey, I would just say fight it out in court. Do the 4320 hearing. Maybe that attorney will entertain settlement offers or proposals for alimony amounts. I don't know. I would not settle if I were you. Just take it to trial. See what you get. You're going to end up with a temporary spousal support anyway, and then you're going to have to litigate stuff. He's going to have to do discovery to figure out what your earning capacity is. You're going to do discovery about him for the same reasons, and then you guys are inevitably going to end up in a trial. Ask for the judge to make him pay your attorney fees as well, since he's so insistent that you have to work and he wants to impugn your income. Do it.
Yeah.
See what happens. But that's all I really have to say to her about that. Let us move on. We'll do one or two more.
Okay.
All right. So, what time you got to get out of here?
Probably 1:30.
All right, we'll do one more. All right. This person is asking, what was the immediate changes for you after the decision to divorce was made? It says, either if you were the one informing your partner you wanted a divorce, or if you got told. Did anything change for you right away? I can speak from my client's perspective that the moment that the other party is served with papers, everything changes. There's going to be an extreme emotional reaction one way or the other, unless it's already well established that this is an inevitable.
And even still, I have had clients where, like, they're aware that the case is being filed.
Yeah.
And it's not until they actually get the documents that it's like shocking.
Yeah. Because now it's real. Now we're doing this, I guess. And so, it's one thing to talk about it. But yeah, as soon as that happens, look, there's a couple things that happen. If you guys are living in the same house, which is most of the time, are you going to stay living there during your divorce? What's that going to look like? Do you got a place to go? Does he or she have a place to go? And what are we going to do with the kids? The air in the house is going to become heavy and dense.
Or you get the finances going to be divided or not? Or are they going to continue?
Every time you go out and leave, that you're going to be questioned about who are you with, even though you guys aren't really together no more. You're living together. It's going to be, oh, you're such a whore and you're this and that. And I've had those cases.
Yep.
They lead to restraining orders usually because one person loses their mind. It's a shocking psychological exercise to go through a divorce. It is such an attack on your ego, because think about it. It's like, it's not just the two parties involved. It's not like a breakup. You guys, families are married.
Yes.
And so now all of your friends and confidants that were on your partner's side of the family, you can't trust them anymore because they might be forced to take a side. And it's not that they don't want to take your side. And, they might even sympathize with you, but they're not going to speak out against their brother or their son or their, family member or close friend. And so you've lost those friends. And same goes for your family as respect to him. And now it's no longer just the parties arguing and going back and forth. It's the families that are now bickering. If there's children, the grandparents often have very intense feelings about how custody and visitation should go. And that's going to greatly influence whether you guys end up with a settlement with respect to custody and visitation, or we have to go to trial over something, because nobody could agree on anything. So you're going through all of that. And then knowing that this person that you just gave your entire self to for a number of years, that is this major chapter of your life, is no longer your confidant, but they are your enemy, regardless of whether or not they stated explicitly or not. It is now the matter of the insert last name here. You are a petitioner, or he's petitioner, or he or she, and you are respondent, or vice versa. It's you versus them. And you guys are both in a fight for the preservation of your rights And the definition of those rights is where the litigation happens. And there's going to be a lot of bad blood that comes out. There's going to be a lot of distrust. And I don't think I've ever had a case where my clients didn't think that the other party was hiding something or lying about something.
Oh, yeah.
And so immediately
The
You're-
trust is immediately gone.
you're changing, literally changing the brain chemistry of yourself. There's something that happens when you go into a new relationship. There's something that happens in your brain neurologically, that a release of chemicals that causes you to attach to a person. That same chemical reaction occurs at separation, out of your brain's necessity to survive. So it's now tearing you away from them, and there's either going to be an extreme indifference and all of this pain and suffering, major depressive disorder, and whatever disorders. You're going to have a lot of angst, a lot of insecurity, a lot of trust issues. You're going to be damaged.
Yeah.
That's the reality of going through a divorce. So for the past, continuing on with this hypo, for the past 10 to 15 years, maybe even longer, it's been extremely rare for me to remember dreams. Maybe one every 6 months that I'd remember, usually something other than sex. But it's now been a week since I told my soon-to-be ex I wanted a divorce. And since then, I've had countless sex dreams, and I actually remember all of them. Well, I can't really help you with that, but...
This is not where I thought it was going.
I don't know what to say to that. Well, I can't say it's not been fun and exciting waking up to, but it's a bit odd how the mind works. I stopped remembering dreams long before I met my wife, and now, wait a minute. Oh, I'm still thinking this was a female from the other. So this is the guy.
So this is the guy, okay.
Yeah. I stopped remembering dreams long before I met my wife, and now that I decided to divorce her, I suddenly start remembering again. Well, I think that's part of your brain's response to the trauma of going through the divorce process itself. So, and that's all I really wanted to talk about. Hey,
Okay.
is it weird for you too? Yeah, going through divorce it's shitty. There's a lot of changes, especially with your mental health. And this guy's experiencing it, and it's manifesting in these dreams that he's having. That's fine. But look, it's not going to be over quickly. And you just got to ride it out. And the quicker that you could move on and start a brand new chapter, the quicker your brain will be able to normalize itself and find stability, because ultimately that's what your brain is searching for. When you go into the brand new relationship, you have this weird release of hormones, and it takes a while before you're normal again. Same thing at divorce, same thing, but it will pass. And eventually you'll go back to not remembering anything, and you'll find somebody else that will cause you to forget your dreams. And hopefully it doesn't end in a divorce again. Maybe you don't even get remarried. Nobody said you had to. But that's all I have to really say to that guy. We got, it's like 114. I got two other ones perspective. Which one should we choose? I'm 30 female. My husband is 30. Together about 5 years married. No kids. All right. We'll do this one. This will be the last one.
Okay.
I think this one is more for you. I'll let you answer this one because I feel like I'm talking too much.
Okay.
As usual. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old female. My husband is a 30-year-old male. Together about 5 years married. For 3, no kids. I love my husband with every piece of my heart. But I'm just not sure we're compatible anymore. I expressed to him that I'm unhappy and suggested couples therapy, to which he said no. He doesn't see anything wrong in the relationship. My question here is, how did you decide it was time to leave? I'm specifically asking folks whose ex didn't do anything astronomically bad to them, which makes leaving harder. Oh, that's a good one. What do you think? What would you say to her?
Well, when you're not happy and you're not able to fix it, I understand that she's not happy. She already communicated that to the other party. And I guess he doesn't see anything wrong, but obviously there's something wrong in there because she's not happy. They need to figure out why she's not happy, if it has to do with him or if it has to do with something else. If he's not willing to at least explore that, just leave. Why are you going to stay in a marriage where you're not happy?
Well, I will answer it from this perspective. Nobody said you're going to be happy during marriage.
Well, that too, yeah.
That's not part of the deal. You know, you don't get to be happy the entire time.
But I'm thinking like the way that she's writing this is like it's not where we had an incident and I'm not happy with this. It seems to me like
In general,
in
she's not happy.
general, like
Yeah.
she realized like maybe this is not what she was.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, they don't have any kids together.
No.
She's a youngster. Them together 5 years, so they're together at 25. I mean, they're relatively old enough to be able to make that decision. But hey, 5 years is not a long time to be together with anybody. They've only been married for 3 years.
3.
That's a short-term marriage. I guess if you really want to get rid of the guy, then do it now. But look, it seems like a pretty straightforward divorce. I'll just caution this when it comes to getting married. When you make the decision to get married to somebody, you're committing to somebody for the rest of your life. You're 100% all in. And that means necessarily that you're accepting the best of that person and the worst of that person. And there's going to be like, you know, the highs and the lows, and 90% of it is going to be the malaise of the gray areas. You're going to lose the excitement. Look, you're not going to be all that excited to be with somebody the rest of your life. That goes away pretty quickly after the newness draws off. And you marry somebody and you're accepting all of their best and all of their worst. Like Jordan Peterson says, right down to the snakes. I also heard the smartest piece of marriage advice I've ever heard was that marriage is never a 50-50 thing. It's never 50-50. Like you sometimes don't have 50% to give to your partner. Sometimes they got to carry the 90% because there's going to be times that you need them to carry the 90%. It's always this give and the take. And you build up good equity with your partner. And if this is not the love of your life and you got married for all the wrong reasons, to take the Instagram photo shoot and all that, and now it's done, and you were never that in love with him to begin with because you're still relatively young at 25 to be even making that call, but you did it anyway. You know, fine. But if you have designs on this, look, you're going to get rid of this guy, you're going to meet some other guy, and you have to make a decision to yourself. Is it just that you don't want to be married to somebody? Is it just that you don't want to be that committed to somebody where you have to be happy all the time? Because it's an unrealistic expectation to suggest that one person is going to 100% keep you entertained. Marriage is boring by nature. Marriage is a whole lot of bad. It's a whole lot of dirty. It's a whole lot of waking up early and getting the kids ready and cooking dinner and keeping the house clean and hanging out and spending time together when you just want your alone time. It's a lot of putting up with things that you wouldn't have to put up, but you guys live together and you're married now and you have to figure out a way to do it. And so look, if you can't make it work with this guy, and you said there's nothing wrong per se with him, you mentioned incompatibility, fine. I think she said he doesn't want to go to couples therapy. Couples therapy. What is a couples therapist going to say? You have a higher opinion of couples therapy than I do, I feel like. I tend to agree that couples therapy is worthless, but I feel like that's most males' opinions. You have to understand that most men don't deal with things by talking to a therapist. We have very different ways of dealing with stuff. And if you just sit down and talk with a guy and you tell him what's wrong, most of the time it's not that they're unwilling to change. It's just they're unable to express or communicate with you in a way that you find acceptable. Like that was an example for me. Like sometimes I could not express emotion with my wife or with my children in a way that was inviting for them. And so I had to change the way that I communicated with them. Therapy for me was valuable in that regard. But in terms of fixing your relationship, what do you think they're going to do? Like, what is the incompatibilities? They're not going to be with you while you're living together. You're going to sit there for like an hour a week, and they're going to talk about what's going on with you, what's going on with him. How do you feel about it? What did he do wrong? What do you guys want to talk about? And, it's going to help or it's hurt. Maybe it helps in the moment. Maybe it gives you guys new perspectives.
It's not going to fix every relationship. It's not a magic wand. It helps I think in certain situations, just like the one that you gave an example of, where a lot of times it's just about understanding how the other person communicates or how the other person perceives how you communicate, stuff like that. But there's also like couples where they're just incompatible. Like
True.
there's nothing that it was just a completely bad match from the beginning, and they just need
Marriage of
somebody,
convenience.
yeah, to tell them, yeah, this is not gonna work.
Yeah. And that might be the case, but she has to make that call for him. You start talking about compatibility. I mean, look, I don't think I've ever seen a couple that's 100% compatible with each other. Every marriage, even the successful ones, there are measures of incompatibility at every level.
Yeah.
I'll just say this.
This is she says that they're 25 or
They're 30. They met at
they're
25.
30.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's also at that age. What I've seen a lot is that they're still growing, but they don't grow together,
Yeah.
and they start liking different things that, although you don't have to, of course, like the same thing as your partner, they make it very compatible. I don't know, maybe one likes to go out a lot and the other one likes to stay at home, and they don't make the compromise where there's a balance in there, and that's maybe where she sees like they're incompatible right now.
That may be it. But I guess that's the thing. I mean, look, you're not always going to, gosh, do you even go out anymore with your husband like that? Like what you used to in your 20s? You're going to like the clubs and stuff. And
So that's what I talk about balance. Like, of course, we used to go a lot. Like it was
Yeah.
like every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We can't do that anymore, but at least we try to make time to at least every now and then do it,
yeah.
because he's the one that mainly likes to go out. And then, of course, I'm more like a homey type of person. So I guess he stays home when if it was his choice, he would just be out every single day. So it's
Yeah.
that balance. But I have heard of couples where it goes to the extreme where, no, we're not going to go out anymore because we're married at all.
Yeah.
Or still need to go out every single day because this is what we did when we met. So
I guess my word of caution for this young lady is, look, make sure it's a compatibility. If you want to get divorced, nobody's going to fault you for that. And you can do it relatively easy. But the therapy will help. Maybe you just got to have a question that, look, this is inevitably going to end in divorce if we don't go to at least couples therapy. It's the last thing I'm willing to try. If you're not even willing to try that with me, then there's no reason to continue. Have that conversation with them. Because I'll tell you what, if you guys were compatible before, when you guys are both 25, you're pretty close to full brain development. There's not a whole lot of change that occurs between 25 and 27. Not a whole lot. There is some. But I'm just going to say, if you were compatible for 2 or 3 years when you got married and now all of a sudden you're not compatible, perhaps it's not a compatibility issue. Perhaps it's just a change in circumstance. And look, when you're married, finances are an issue. Children are not an issue with them. But the lifestyle, the pressures of being the breadwinner, if he's the breadwinner, the pressures of maintaining a successful household is shocking on the brain. Don't misinterpret the shock for incompatibility before exploring whether or not maybe it's just an adjustment period. Because if you're wrong, now look, you can cut cords and maybe we never have to find out. But it's also possible that maybe you guys just got to learn how to be together again in the context of marriage. It's easy to be together when you're not married. It's really hard to be married to somebody and still maintain that balance because there's no hiding the snakes when you're married. You see it all. Your husband has seen the absolute worst of you that nobody will ever see. And you've seen the worst of him.
Oh, yeah.
And same with myself and my wife. And that's for you guys to deal with, for nobody else, right? But you also, in discovering those snakes, it's not a matter of incompatibility, maybe. Maybe it's just a matter of you've seen the snakes and now you're either going to find out a coping mechanism to deal with them and accept them because you promised that's what you were going to do, or it's just not for you. And if it's not for you with this guy, then hey, maybe it's just not for you ever. Because I promise you, there's never going to be a guy that is going to keep you happy every second of your life. And I go back to what she said, the very first thing. I love my husband with every piece of my heart. You don't say something like that without having at one time found compatibility with him.
I think also like when I hear this message, I think it maybe also comes from this idea where you only get divorced if the other party did something wrong to you.
Yeah.
And you can't just simply fall out of love or, I don't know, one day decide, you know what, I made a mistake. And maybe she feels guilty because of that. And it happens.
You mean like she like stepped out on the marriage or something?
No, just simply like
Oh, you mean, I'm sorry, made a mistake in like choosing the person.
choosing the person or marrying the person in general. I mean,
Sure, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case. I'm just kind of reading between the lines with this first sentence here because I agree with you. And so I will not hesitate to tell someone, oh yeah, definitely get a divorce. I think most of my cases, these things that we do, yeah, just freaking leave. It's a big deal. Go. It's done. This one, I'm just not so sure. And then there's not a whole lot of other evidence to suggest. Yeah, fairly young. Nobody's going to penalize you for getting a divorce now. But my brotherly advice to her, or my fatherly advice to her, would be, you know what? Get yourself on birth control for sure for the next 2 or 3 years. If he is not invested in you enough to engage in couples therapy, even over his objections, then F that guy. Divorce him. But maybe he is. And maybe you lay down that ultimatum and he's still all in and committed to you, and then he does. You might just end up, 50 years down the road finding out that it wasn't a compatibility issue, it was just an adjustment issue, and they're not the same. So that's what I got to say about this one. Any closing thoughts for her?
No.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Do it.
Even if he doesn't want to participate, maybe just she can go to therapy a couple of times just to maybe try to figure out what she's feeling, because it seems like she's confused to me. So maybe that will help her figure out what she's actually feeling for him. If she's feeling actual love, like as in a marriage, or maybe it's love as a friend, I don't know, something like that, and go from there.
I caution against that kind of thinking, though. Well, just because, look, you're the one that wanted to get married. I mean, look, I guess what I'm getting at is she's already said there's nothing wrong with this guy. So it's either
it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is maybe she just doesn't like the idea of being married.
Yeah.
Because marriage requires sacrifice and going to therapy and, reconciling to yourself your thoughts and feelings or desires. Well, in a successful marriage, you oftentimes set those aside because of the marriage. It's the sacrifice that comes with it. That's what's required of a successful marriage. You don't get to do what you want or feel what you want in a marriage. Oftentimes, men and women put themselves out in a position to sacrifice their feelings and desires and wants and time and comfort for their family because that's what they committed to. And it's a daunting exercise to ask for anybody. And if your temporary mental displeasure born about by your inability to sacrifice for that purpose, if that's the case, then hey, maybe it's just not this guy, it's just the marriage idea. You can be friends with that guy, just don't be married. Get divorced now and just never get married again unless you reconcile to yourself that you're willing to undergo those sacrifices of your personal comfort. Not to say that it's all going to be sacrifice. There's going to be the happy times, but hey, there's going to be the malaise as well. And if you can't make the adjustment and still at 30, you're just getting out of your 20s. You're still young. You're still of that mindset. Yeah. And so, but I guarantee you, when you're 40, life is going to slow down and speed up all at the same time. And, you got rid of this guy when you were 30 because of your temporary discomforts. But in your 40s, he might have been perfect for you. And you'll never know because he couldn't sacrifice at 30. So I don't want to tell her one way or the other. I just say I would give him one more ultimatum. If he's not willing to make that very simple sacrifice, then F that guy. But if he is, hey, I'm just suggesting. I'm not against her wanting to get divorced. I'm just suggesting. Perhaps give it a year. Just one. Just one. And if you're not feeling it, hey, if you're not feeling it after 6 months or you're just reconciled, then just, leave it. But do it before you have kids.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And we will leave it at that. Okay, we have to address something, Ileana.
What happened?
We made a promise to our subscribers.
Here you go.
That once we hit 10,000 subscribers, that we were going to do various things.
Yes.
I was called out by one of our commenters, only one, but I agreed with her. She's like, it's really creepy that you would tell any woman to dye her hair unless she absolutely wanted to. And then I commented back, it wasn't even my idea, it was her idea. And then you're like, was it your idea or my idea? I was like, I thought it was. I don't know if it was or not, but you said I dye my hair all the time. So I thought that, I don't know, but
Well,
you're right.
I think you mentioned it, and I think I probably said like it wasn't a big deal for me because I had done it before. I know it wasn't my idea in terms of this is what I'm gonna do if we get to the 10,000, but it's not something that I guess it was
Well,
that damaging. I guess.
I will tell you what, we're not going to do the hair dye thing anymore, but we do have to modify the contract a little bit.
Okay.
We will deem it unenforceable, that clause. And we're going to modify it as follows. You are going to sing one verse of the Spanish song of your choice.
Okay.
And you're going to record it over karaoke music if you want, or an instrumental. I don't know, a gentle lullaby. And you're going to forward that audio to Dominic. I am going to do the same thing. And he is going to put it together and in his producer magic, turn it into a special treat for our loyal subscribers that will be played at the end of next week's episode after our standard 2.5 hour long form podcast. And that's how we are going to make good on our promises to our subscribers. Are you prepared for this?
I don't know. Oh God, I think I would rather dye my hair.
We've taken it off the table. Okay, so we are making this contract without any undue influence or duress. We're not under duress. Nobody's forcing us. Nobody's making us. But we are agreeing to these provisions. Do you accept these terms? It could be literally a 15-second verse.
And you just
Song of your
record,
choice.
not video, right?
Not live. Okay, I'll tell you what. When we hit 100,000 subscribers. Now I'm saying this for a specific reason. When I said 10,000, it would literally meant the growth of our channel by like 10 times. I never thought it was going to happen, and it happened like a couple months later.
Yeah.
So when we hit 100,000, it represents the growth of another times 10.
Yes.
And we will full on perform a duo what am I saying? Karaoke performance of.
But if we do the singing now, we need to do something different than for the 100.
Okay.
Dance then.
Well, we could talk about the 100,000 thing. It doesn't have to be singing. It doesn't have to, we'll figure out something. It'll be some kind of a special episode that we enjoy with our subscribers. Maybe we'll host like a local live or something, and people could just come and party with us like it's some rented out venue. And it could be like the Tilted Lawyer podcast 100,000 subscribers celebration with Omar and Ileana, and performing live in Whitney Houston. I will always love you.
Oh my.
All right.
I
Hey,
need like a couple of drinks to be able to.
if in a couple months we're at 100,000, that's really the only time you would have to worry about it.
Oh my.
But for right now, it'll be a recording, a clip, all right? It'll come out on next week's episode at the very tail end. So only our loyal subscribers or people that are really fans of our show will have reason to listen to.
Okay.
Deal? Is it a contract? I need you to say it. I need you to say the words.
I guess deal.
Ileana, has anybody forced you or made any undue promises to the effect that if you didn't agree to this promise that something bad would happen?
No,
So you're making this statement free of duress,
I do.
undue influence?
None.
Okay. Counsel, do you join? Join. All right. Let us end here. For all of you.
Don't forget the email.
Oh, by the way, if you wanted us to review your family law hypothetical, email me at tiltedlawyer@gmail.com, where I will review your hypothetical, and me and Ileana will analyze it the way that we've been doing it on our Family Law After Dark episodes in full. Also, if you have any show ideas or stuff that you just want us to look at, send us an email to that specific email address. Dominic will flash it on the screen, and it'll be linked down below. Also, if you are in need of producing or video editing needs, don't hesitate to contact our producer, Dominic. Dominic, who is responsible for our videos looking and sounding so good because of all of his expertise. And with that said, we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.